The Prelude. A seemingly ordinary flight sets the stage for an extraordinary clash. A veteran flight attendant, blinded by ingrained assumptions, makes a snap decision that ignites a firestorm. Little does she know, the poised young passenger she's dismissing holds the key to unlocking profound change within the very airline she serves. This is a story where humiliation transforms into a battle cry for justice, challenging deeply entrenched biases and daring to rewrite the rules of a long-established system. Chapter 1. The Unassuming Heiress. The tension in the cabin was a subtle hum, a collection of unspoken expectations and perceived hierarchies. Skylar Williams, all of 17, settled into her plush premium seat with a quiet grace that belied the storm brewing within. Her crisp school uniform, neatly braided hair, and focused demeanor stood in stark contrast to the typical image of a first-class traveler. In her lap rested not only a valid, first-class ticket, but also the legacy of her late father, a visionary who had built Horizon Airways into a national leader. Unbeknownst to her fellow passengers, Skylar held a secret. Beneath her composed exterior pulsed the heart of the airline's largest shareholder, a 42% stake that gave her the power to reshape the conventions of air travel itself. She was returning from a meeting with family lawyers. As the jet climbed to cruising altitude, Skylar immersed herself in a calculus assignment, her brow furrowed in concentration. But her studious calm was soon disrupted by the arrival of a presence that radiated both authority and an undercurrent of unspoken judgment. Madison Clark, a veteran flight attendant with over 15 years of dedicated service. Madison, impeccably groomed and fiercely loyal to Horizon's protocols, prided herself on providing unparalleled service. However, as her eyes fell upon the young, seemingly out-of-place passenger, a conflict ignited within her. Long-held assumptions about who belonged in first class, ingrained biases about youth and privilege, clashed with the undeniable truth of Skylar's boarding pass. Convinced that a teenager in a school uniform simply couldn't merit a premium seat, Madison's internal prejudices hardened into a course of action that would soon reverberate throughout the entire flight. Chapter 2. The Unjust Ejection. With a carefully modulated, yet distinctly cold tone, Madison addressed Skylar. "I'm afraid there's been a mistake, miss." She paused, glancing pointedly at the school uniform. "Williams, while you may have a valid ticket, your attire doesn't quite align with the first-class dress code. I'm going to have to ask you to relocate to the economy section." The announcement rippled through the cabin like an electric shock. Passengers exchanged furtive glances, a mix of confusion and thinly veiled disapproval. Skylar, however, maintained her composure. Her eyes, clear and unwavering, met Madison's gaze with a steady strength that belied her age. She silently absorbed the injustice, a flicker of sadness momentarily crossing her face, quickly replaced by an unyielding resolve. Without a word of argument or protest, Skylar gathered her belongings and moved towards the back of the plane. Her quiet dignity, her refusal to be drawn into a public confrontation, spoke volumes. It was an act of silent defiance, a promise that this was not the end of the story. Chapter 3. The Exile to Economy. Relocated to the cramped confines of economy, the contrast between the discarded luxury and the mundane reality became painfully acute. The scent of microwaved meals and the muffled cries of restless children filled the air. Yet even amidst the discomfort, Skylar's determination remained unbroken. She possessed a quiet inner strength that radiated outwards, attracting curious glances from her fellow passengers. With a calmness that belied the inner turmoil of the moment, Skylar discreetly retrieved her phone and composed a brief, carefully worded message to Mark Stevenson, a trusted family advisor and a virtual encyclopedia of Horizon Airways' inner workings. Mark had been a confidant of her father, and he would know exactly what to do. His prompt reply confirmed the obvious, but unspoken truth. "Stay calm, Skylar. I'm on it." Skylar was not simply a passenger. She was the airline's single largest shareholder, a fact that made the humiliation imposed upon her all the more egregious and, paradoxically, all the more powerful. Chapter 4. Revelation at 30,000 feet. Meanwhile, at the front of the plane, the situation was escalating rapidly. Captain Ryan Hale, a seasoned aviator renowned for his unwavering sense of duty and adherence to procedure, received a direct, urgent call from the airline's operations center. The message was unambiguous. Confirm identity of passenger Skylar Williams in Seat 1A. She holds a 42% controlling stake in Horizon Airways. The revelation struck Captain Hale like a bolt of lightning. He had dealt with turbulence, mechanical failures, and even the occasional unruly passenger, but this was unprecedented. Within minutes, his revised instructions reached Madison via the intercom. The order was direct and unequivocal. Immediately apologize to Ms. Williams and reinstate her to her original seat. In that instant, the magnitude of Madison's misjudgment became agonizingly clear. She had not only acted on unfounded prejudice, but she had also jeopardized the very integrity of Horizon Airways service standards. The sinking feeling that she made a terrible, terrible mistake hit her like a punch in the gut. Chapter 5. The Ripples of Disbelief. Inside the first-class cabin, the atmosphere shifted palpably. Colleagues exchanged nervous glances, the hushed conversations hinting at a growing realization that what had unfolded was far more than a simple seating error. Even seasoned flight attendants, accustomed to resolving minor issues with practiced diplomacy, recognized that this confrontation had exposed deep-seated inequities and potential systemic flaws. The repercussions of Madison's actions were now being felt by everyone on board, transforming what should have been a routine flight into an unwelcome lesson in accountability and respect. Chapter 6. Silent Resistance. Back in economy, Skylar's demeanor had become a beacon of silent resistance. Despite the cramped quarters and diminished comforts, her calm presence radiated an inner strength that captivated the attention of nearby passengers. Her quiet defiance transformed an act of humiliation into a powerful statement against prejudice and discrimination. With each subtle gesture, each steady gaze, each measured response, she communicated that dignity could not be stripped away by arbitrary decisions or outdated protocols. Her resolve was not simply a personal triumph, but a clarion call for systemic change. It was in this moment, her phone buzzing quietly with support from Mark, that she knew this would be more than a return flight, but a catalyst. Chapter 7. Grounded. An internal review. After the plane landed, the incident rapidly escalated beyond the confines of the aircraft. An urgent internal review was launched, and the airline's disciplinary board convened to scrutinize the events with unflinching clarity. In a sterile conference room, bathed in the muted glow of city lights, Madison found herself facing senior executives and board members. The meeting was a blunt confrontation with facts. Her decision to relegate a first-class passenger based solely on appearance had not only violated company policy, but had also betrayed the core values of fairness and equality that Horizon Airways claimed to uphold. The board's discussion was unvarnished. There was no room for excuses, no mitigating circumstances. A single act of prejudice had shaken the very foundation of customer trust. Chapter 8. Facing the Music. The board's inquiry delved into every facet of the incident. Madison's long record of service was weighed against the undeniable evidence of bias, and it soon became apparent that no protocol could justify her unilateral decision to move a passenger. The meeting evolved into an educational moment for the entire organization, emphasizing that every employee must be held accountable for actions that undermine the inclusive environment the airline promised to provide. The questions were direct and uncompromising, urging Madison to reflect on her motivations and the broader impact of her actions. It was a moment of reckoning, a painful acknowledgement of the need for a complete overhaul in how service was delivered. Chapter 9. A Vision for Reform. Amidst the intense deliberations, Skylar's experience took on a new dimension. Far from being a solitary incident of personal affront, her ordeal had sparked a broader conversation about the importance of equity in customer service. With a quiet, yet powerful resolve, Skylar met with Horizon Airways leadership to articulate a vision for meaningful reform. Drawing upon her unique perspective as both a passenger and a significant shareholder, she proposed a series of transformative measures. Her recommendations were precise and far-reaching. Comprehensive training, mandatory cultural sensitivity training for all flight attendants, focusing on the recognition and mitigation of unconscious biases. Immediate reporting mechanisms, establishment of a confidential reporting system for passengers and employees to report incidents of discriminatory behavior. Oversight board, creation of an independent oversight board, including representatives from diverse backgrounds, to review and address customer service complaints and ensure compliance with non-discrimination policies. Each proposal was designed to ensure that no passenger would ever again be subjected to arbitrary judgment based on appearance or age. Chapter 10. A Promise for a Better Future. The leadership's response was swift and decisive. Recognizing that the incident had exposed vulnerabilities in long-standing practices, Horizon Airways committed to a thorough reformation of its service protocols. Public statements were issued, acknowledging the shortcomings of the past and outlining a clear plan for the future, a future where every passenger would be treated with the respect and dignity they deserved. These sweeping changes were not just a reactive measure, but a proactive commitment to reshaping the culture of the entire organization. The reforms promised to serve as a blueprint for the aviation industry at large, setting a new standard for fairness and accountability. Chapter 11. Remorse and Resolution. In the weeks that followed, the impact of the incident continued to reverberate. Madison, after an extended suspension, took the offer of leaving the company with a severance. she didn't fight the decision and accepted it and the lessons she had to learn. Her subsequent email of remorse, a heartfelt confession of her error, underscored the personal cost of acting on bias. While her apology did little to reverse the damage already done, it served as a somber reminder of the high stakes involved in every decision made at 35,000 feet. Schuyler's measured response to that apology was brief and resolute, signaling that while the lesson had been learned, the journey towards lasting change was only just beginning. The epilogue, a legacy of change. Every aspect of that turbulent flight has since been analyzed and re-examined by industry experts, training professionals, and consumer advocates alike. The narrative of Schuyler Williams stands as a testament to the power of resilience and the transformative potential of challenging discrimination head-on. It is a story that speaks not only to the fallibility of established systems, but also to the possibility of renewal when courage and accountability come together. The ripple effects of that day have reached far beyond the confines of a single aircraft, igniting discussions and reforms that continue to shape the future of air travel. The unfolding events remain a powerful reminder that the fight against bias is not confined to the boundaries of any one profession or industry. Instead, it is a call to action for every individual and organization to re-examine their values, embrace continuous learning, and commit to an environment where fairness and respect are paramount. Through the courage of one young woman and the hard lessons learned by an entire team, a new chapter has been written, one that promises a more inclusive and just experience for every traveler. The intertwined destinies. In the end, Schuyler's steadfast resolve and Madison's hard-earned lesson intertwined to create a turning point that redefines the way we treat one another. Schuyler's dignified response to adversity ignited a transformation, setting new standards for fairness and respect that resonated throughout the entire industry. Meanwhile, Madison's confrontation with her own biases became a catalyst for self-reflection, ultimately opening her eyes to the power of empathy and accountability. Their intertwined journeys remind us that meaningful change often arises from our most challenging moments, proving that a single act of courage can shift the course of an entire organization. As the echoes of that fateful day continue to inspire reform and a commitment to justice, let this memorable moment encourage us to embrace our shared responsibility in fostering positive change. If you found this story as moving as we did, please like and share. This is more than a story. It is a chance to share a lesson in how to address injustice with empathy and bring change to an organization.